Hey guys, it's Mo with Mo in the Deep End. I know, long time no see. We have the man bear pig tinfoil hat, and I'm realizing now that I want to put the tinfoil here so I can just wear it like this. Go full six blossom style. Cause who else is a 90s kid and loved Blossom? I mean, I was pretty sure I was gonna name uh, Griffin 6 if he happened to be a girl. So God probably had a good plan when he made him a boy because let's be real, uh, he'd have been named 6, and that would have been terrible, just terrible. So, we are getting back to the memoranda. Where we left off yesterday was kind of the cast of characters and the 8 things to know. Now, the defense has done a really good job of breaking this down because this is a fairly dense memoranda. There are a lot of things going on, and there are a lot of crazy, crazy things that they're asking us to believe. And really and truly, it helps that everything that they are presenting is coming from the prosecutor's own discovery, but it is also helped by the fact that they are laying this out with footnotes in, kind of a very easy to read, though I suspect that tomorrow, I should have my lapel mic going. I will be doing an afternoon, stream with Nicholas from Nicholas Staro's trial, I think, Criminal Trial Watch. Daggone it, it's the longest thing. Hello, C. Souter or Sounder. Damn it. I am not a good namerologist. But, we will be benefiting from him having much more obviously legal things, so he can definitely explain to us, uh yeah, I definitely have saved this. I have, several places that I've saved this because I have a feeling that the state has, called all the shenanigans on this. I think they are going to be double, triple, all pissed off about this. Again, scuttlebutt from the defense side of things that are going on in Indiana. Um, this oh, yes, I am feeling better. I don't know what happened last night. It was weird because I generally don't get allergies. It was the very strangest thing. So I will be adding tinfoil so that I can wear it just like Blossom and Six used to in the 90s because the 90s were awesome and the best time ever. Um, so I did hear, that the county clerk put this up and then took this right back down from the thing. So, you know, people have gotten this and then took it right back off. And again, it goes to that, transparency in our court system. Again, I understand that this is a super, far-fetched thing, but I did want to bring up that and tomorrow I will be bringing this in because this is a lot of information to process. But there are several federal cases, even though the Carroll County, which is the local county, that the Delphi cases happened in, kicked out the FBI from this case. The FBI is still running out leads in different cases that are suspected to have Odinite links, if you will. Now, they're not direct links, but scuttlebutt and underlying things that I'm hearing allegedly. So you're going to have to take this with a grain of salt. I don't want to become a true crime tuber, but I'm hearing these from reliable sources. Uh, that these are fairly, strong connections that the FBI is following. Now, FBI is asshole to me, but I mean, these are things that the FBI were not, willing to throw out right away. So I do like that the defense has gone through and kind of really laid out everything because again, if you are going to ask me to buy a a crazy cray cray um theory, I definitely need you to lay something out for me. I did want to also, I believe I saw this in my messages, and let me see if I can pull this up because I want you to look at this picture. If I can open link in new tab. Ta-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. I want you to look at this because this is a person that's mentioned in this particular stop screen, present new screen. This is a person that is mentioned in this, particular let me move me because I am in the way. Over here. This is a person that is mentioned in this particular, memoranda. At I mean, now granted, there's a lot of this could be any generic white guy, really, if we wanna look at it that way, but it also, as more things are coming out, you see the shoddiness of the police work that they really did, and it's beginning to get very frustrating that these leads were not followed up on, um, as I'm looking more into this, when this case was fresh. It looks like, again, the state, as we've been seeing more and more of lately, the state first located a suspect, and then just located, uh, details that would go to making sure that suspect was correct, or that suspect, they could make sure that that suspect stayed in jail. So I I don't know. I'm just saying that this memoranda does go into a lot. So I will be doing longer streams on the weekend and kind of rehashing all of this and try to make a murder board and make it kind of less confusing. But we are going to start with Odinism, Odinites, and runes. Odinism is the pagan religion referenced above. Its followers are called Odinites. Odinites Odinists are enamored of Viking Nordic culture. Evidence supports that at the crime scene. These murdering Odinites left behind obvious signatures, symbols in the forms of runes. So now this is 9. So I did on the thumbnail, you guys will see kind of examples of the runes that they believe were left, or examples of runes, kind of the runes that were left, and I will try to get all of this put into a better sort of thing, but, it's a little bit hard to get all of this going when I'm trying to also figure out what the hell is going on. I thought the Freemasons ran the world, now it's Odinites and the Illuminati? Or not the Illuminati? These runes are found 1 formed with sticks, 2 French fashioned with tree branches, and 3 painted using the blood of Liberty German. Now, they're going to go into this more later in the memoranda, but the defense posits that at 5'4" and not in the best physical shape when he was captured and still kind of a little bit overweight, at the time of the murders, it would be very difficult for one single person to, subdue, and I can only imagine how horrific the crime scene photos are going to be. They've never really released exactly what happened, and even this is somewhat sanitized, for our reading, so I can only imagine what the heck went on, but this does seem like a crazy amount of work for one person to do. And that's I mean, maybe he did do it. I'm just saying I can see wanting to believe that he did it and wanting him to be the boogeyman. I just don't think he could have done it all by himself. Now, maybe he had help. I mean, maybe he is part of all of this. I just with what they have on him, I just don't see how they're going to get a conviction, and that's what ticks me off is that we're wasting all this time not finding justice. But let's continue. Sticks and tree branches were deliberately, carefully, and proficiently placed on each girl in a certain arrangement mimicking certain runes. At least one of the branches appeared to have its end cut cleanly off or cleanly by some type of tool like an electric saw, proving or providing proof of a preconceived plan. Additionally, the blood of Liberty German was used as paint to mark a tree with a rune that looks similar to that of the letter F. Okay, so many runes look like the letter F, including the rune uh, called Enzeus, which, among other things, stands for Odin. Okay. With a simple Google search, these runes would be identifiable as one of the many calling cards of this pagan religious cult. Yet, law enforcement in charge of the Delphi investigation seemingly and quickly abandoned the obvious correlation between the crime scene and Odinism, despite an obscene amount of evidence linking Odinism to the crime scene. Even in spite of powerful evidence linking specific Odinites in and around Indiana to the murder. Also, the court will learn in his affidavit for search warrant that Sheriff Leggett failed to inform Judge Diner that nothing, absolutely nothing, links Richard Allen to Odinism or any religious cult. Um, Also, no forensics such as DNA, no electronic data extracted from his computers or phones or his social media links Richard Allen to the crime scene. Additionally, nothing links Richard Allen to any of the Odinite suspects. The same Odinite suspects that evidence strongly supports sacrificed Abby and Libby in some sort of pagan ritual. Richard Allen had nothing to do with this crime, but rather is an innocent man, a patsy for the police, arrested 26 days before an election. Okay, so failure to pursue Odinist links. Law enforcement's failure to actively pursue obvious links between the crime scene and Odinism is confounding. It is even more confounding when days and weeks after the murders, a particular Odinite from Logansport named Brad Holder posted on social media images mimicking the very ruins found at the crime scene, a crime scene unreleased and unknown to the general public even to this day. Who was Brad Holder? He was an Odinite whose son Logan had been quote unquote dating Abby. Brad Holder's social media page posts seemingly taunted the very police that refused to fully investigate him. The defense believes that the court will be shocked at the number of clues or Easter eggs, both before and after the murders, that Holder openly posted on his Facebook page that point the finger to his involvement in the murders. However, a fact that is simply mind blowing to the defense is that Brad Holder was never considered a suspect in the murders of Abby or Libby. State Trooper Jerry Holman, one of the law enforcement officers in charge of organizing and investigating the Delphi murders, claimed in his August 10th, 2023 deposition that Brad Holder was not ever a suspect. Police reports written near the time of the murders reveal that Jerry Holdman is telling the truth. Brad Holder was cleared as a suspect quickly on March 16th, 2017. On March 1st, 2017, Tony Leggett stated in a report that there were no leads required concerning Brad Holder, meaning it was not necessary for law enforcement to continue to look for leads related to Brad Holder. Leggett made that determination a mere 15 days after the girls were murdered. By March 16th, 2023, United Command member Kevin Hammond wrote that Brad Holder had been cleared. The girls hadn't been dead for 30 days, and United I think they mean 2017 because 2023 would be this year. Yeah, I have a feeling this is going to stay open, but I hope that they bring the feds in as much as I hate the I mean, FBI person who's watching this, I love you. Don't put me on a list. Also, don't knock on my door. And I don't have a Liberty safe. But, so I believe this is supposed to be 2017, but it looks like they eliminated him fairly quickly. United Command member Kevin Hammond wrote that Brad Holder has been clear. The girls hadn't been dead for 30 days, and Unified Command had already cleared Brad Holder as a suspect. Unified Command had already cleared Holder as a suspect within 30 days, knowing that Brad Holder's son dated Abby. United Unified Command had already cleared Holder as a suspect within 30 days of the murder, although a simple review of Brad Holder's Facebook page would show that he, Brad Holder, was a proud Odinite that had an absolute obsession and fascination with runes. Police knew or had known that runes had been left at the crime scene. Additionally, Unified Command had already cleared Holder as a suspect in spite of the fact runes were found on Brad Holder's Facebook pages mimicking runes found at a crime scene that had not been released to the public. The investigation had barely begun, but the Unified Command had already cleared the very man that any person with even a small amount of common sense or curiosity would believe was a strong candidate for being involved in the murder of the girls. Well, can we throw shade just a bit? So I guess I will be adding Brad Holder to the list of people because I'm trying to make EU did such a wonderful job with the What the Beck um, timeline thing that I really want to try to do that with this to make it that's I'm trying to go through. I will say that the defense has done a pretty good job of lining things up, so maybe they will come through and explain why, you know. For example, the court will also learn that Unified Command I keep wanting to say United Way. Unified Command was aware of a very disturbing image on Brad Holder's social media account that actually mimicked the crime scene. On April 12th, 2017, Trooper Joseph Ryan Winters received a phone call from a man in Georgia named Ryan Boucher who had discovered disturbing images in Brad Holder's social media account. Having somehow learned that Brad Holder's son Logan dated Abby Williams, Mr. Boucher began reviewing Brad Holder's social media history. One of the images Boucher reviewed on Brad Holder's social media account was an image of two women, either dead or posed as if they were dead, on the ground, in what appeared to be a forest. Both women had tree limbs and sticks arranged on their bodies. One of the women had her arms stretched out above her head, similar to the way Abby's arms were stretched above her head. Both women were clothed, and the stick and tree branch formations on these girls was different than the stick and tree branch formation on Abby and Libby, but otherwise it bore a very eerie similarity to the murder scene in Delphi. Ryan Boucher had no knowledge of the actual crime scene. However, after reviewing Brad Holder's social media sites, Boucher had was disturbed that at that image, as well as other images that provided insight into Brad Holder's fascination with runes, believing that the disturbing images might be something of interest to those investigating the Delphi murders. Mr. Boucher contacted Toby Lesenby, who at the time was the sheriff of Carroll County. Lesenby quickly rebuffed Boucher, telling Boucher that Holder was not a suspect. Undeterred, Boucher contacted the state police, where he ended up talking to Trooper Joseph Ryan Winters. After their conversation, Winters memorialized the interaction and placed the images provided by Boucher in a Dropbox account. After creating the report, Winters then discussed his findings face to face with Jerry Holdman of Unified Command. The body of this memorandum will provide the details of that interaction. In his report, Winters requested law enforcement to re interview Brad Holder. The defense does not believe Unified Command ever followed up on Winters' request. It should be noted that the disturbing images found by Boucher in Georgia and placed in the Dropbox by Winters were not and still not have not been provided to the defense. In his recent deposition, Winters said he attempted to locate the images but was not able. However, because of the potential importance of these images to Richard Allen's case, the defense team located Boucher and then traveled to Georgia to meet with Boucher. Those images are now in the possession of Richard Allen's defense team, who provided those images to law enforcement. Again, these were important images that law enforcement failed to turn over to the defense. Instead, the defense located these images in Georgia, it then turned them over to the very people who had the obligation to provide them to the defense. Yeah, that's that's what I'm thinking. I mean, the defense sounds like they're doing both the police and the, prosecutor's job all in one. I do think that these are public defenders, so kudos, guys, for doing all of this work and really, stepping up to the plate, being public defenders and really, defending vigorously your client because this is really good lawyering. This is in no way Doogie Howser from, Gareth Pursehouse. Unified Command, which included Tony Leggett. Now, also another thing that you guys have to keep in mind is that Carroll County is also under, federal review, or it's subject to a federal civil rights, violation, lawsuit because there were some shenanigans going on right before the election where basically their head guy basically small town politics, some guy kind of one hand washes the other. I'll review it on the weekend. I'll put another video about it, but I did make a video about basically, the former second guy in charge was basically pushed out, and this Tony Leggett guy was kind of groomed by the new guy coming in to be the new second in command. And the other guy was basically forced out. And when he claims that he tried to give alternate theories on the investigation, was sort of pushed out. So I will be going over all of that and trying to do a refresher. I will try to make a playlist. Tomorrow, like I said, I'm going to try to have Nick on. We will be going through probably the probable cause affidavit or going through the rest of this, but in the afternoon, and I will get those times put up for you guys as quickly as possible tomorrow so you guys will know what to plan for. Let's see here. Unified Command, which included Tony Leggett, who drafted the affidavit for the search warrant, was fully aware of the mimicked crime scene on Brad Holder's social media, as well as other posts that mimicked the exact ruins found at the crime scene, but failed to do anything about it, and failed to inform Judge Diner of this obvious suspect, Brad Holder, and all the evidence that existed against Holder, making him a prime suspect. The court will learn in the body of this memoranda that Holder was connected to the crime scene, and to other men who have confessed to the crime, who had confessed to the crime. The evidence of those connections will be provided in the body of the memoranda, including copies of the images found on Holder's Facebook page at the time of the investigation, which link Holder to the crime scene, as well as images found by Ryan Boucher that law enforcement failed to turn over. to the defense because you have to remember we're still in the introduction part of this nuke from orbit. I mean, we are still in just the holy cow, we are just in the freaking, you know, prequel, the prologue, if you will. That is what they are alleging. They are also alleging, and I think we will get into it in the body of the memoranda, but what this Boucher gentleman is saying, or Boucher, I don't know. Look, it's from Georgia. He's saying that there are photos of women laid out with sticks on top of them. And even though fully released details of the crime scene have never been given to us, the lawyers have obviously seen the crime scene photos, and they say that it is eerily reminiscent of the crime scene and that, the police didn't he reached out to the Carroll County Police. The Carroll County Police basically told him to buzz off, but he felt so strongly he went to the state police, and the state police, he basically the state police officer took a memo, put the images in a Dropbox, and went to the Carroll County Police. The Carroll County Police basically said, he's not our suspect. We don't care." And then when the defense went to while they were, going through all the discovery, when the defense went and said, "Hey, can we see that, cray cray picture that you guys were talking about?" They couldn't find the picture, so they went all the way to Georgia to see if this gentleman still had the picture, and luckily he did because the state had done lost it. This state seems my state seems super competent. Yeah, this is all the ridiculous. The defense will also attach what the defense calls the quote, "Winters report," end quote, which is a memorialization of Trooper Winters' interaction with Ryan Boucher or Boucher, I don't know. Leggett provided none of this evidence or information to Judge Diner, but rather allowed Judge Diner to believe that Richard Allen was the lone suspect in the murders in spite of zero evidence linking Richard Allen to the crimes at the time Leggett sought the search warrant 26 days before an election. Unified Command's failure to vigorously pursue obvious links between the crime scene and Odinism is even more perplexing when evidence known to law enforcement demonstrated a clear nexus between Brad Holder and at least four other suspects: Elvis Fields from Rushville, Patrick Westfall from Delphi, Johnny Messer from Rushville, and Rod Abrams from Rushville, now living in Connorsville. Unified Command was aware that Elvis Fields confessed to his sister that he, Elvis, was involved in the murder, even providing to his sister intimate crime scene details of which only those present at the crime scene would have familiarity. Additionally, Elvis Fields told his sister Mary on February 14th, 2017, that he was present at the killings and that he, Elvis, now had a brother and was now, quote, "part of a gang," end quote. In February 2018, Elvis had been questioned by law enforcement but denied involvement in the murders. However, after being dropped off at his trailer following questioning, Elvis turned around, walked back to the police car, and according to the police report, asked the trooper if Elvis's spit is found on one of the girls. But he could explain it away, would he still be in trouble? The state trooper that heard Elvis utter these words, Kevin Murphy, was not part of Unified Command, but immediately relayed Elvis's disturbing question to Jay Harper of Unified Command. Elvis also admitted to a different sister, Joyce, that he had in fact spit on one of the girls. Elvis told Joyce, "Oh, thank you. Welcome, Aaron, and thank you, Excited Utterance." Yes. Yes, that's what they said, they were laid out in the runic letter F, which I guess translates to Odin, maybe? Look, I'm hoping to ask Nicholas some of this because I only know what I can Wikipedia. Yeah, this all sounds insane, but basically, if they have not look, if all of this is true and they have effing ignored this stuff, you're telling me that the day after they did this, because they were killed the day before Valentine's Day. So, a year later, when we still have that stupid ass sketch of a guy, a big fat old guy in a, golf cap, and we're all looking for, some guy with a big sads because basically that's all the information that these jackbutts would give us. And we had a guy confessing to spitting on her. And we had y'all, if they had these jack wagons admitting to spitting on these girls and DNA on this on these children, and they have tried to ramrod an innocent man through, I am moving to Guam. I will y'all, that will be an epic day drink, stream of no end. I cannot, you guys. Okay, Elvis told Joyce that he, Elvis, was on a trail and a bridge with 2 girls that were killed and he was going away for a long time. Elvis's alibi for February 13th, 2017 was also probably flawed. State troopers who weren't part of the unified command determined that Elvis's roommate concocted a story concerning Elvis's whereabouts on February 13th, 2017. This roommate was named Rod Abrams. Abrams told a story claiming on February 13th, 2017 that he, Rod Abrams, Elvis Fields, and a man named Ned Smith were visiting a sick friend in Muncie. Unfortunately for Rod Abrams, this story conflicted with a story that Elvis Fields told law enforcement as to Elvis's whereabouts on February 13th. These shady alibis were related to Unified Command. These shady alibis will be further explained in the body of the memoranda. Furthermore, Unified Command knew on February 1st, 2018, Elvis's sister passed a polygraph examination when asked if she were telling the truth about what Elvis had confessed to her. Are you MFing kidding me? I mean, I know polygraphs aren't admissible in court, but this woman is willing to take a polygraph because this dude confessed. Y'all, if it weren't for the fact that I cannot drink and read this, I'm and here's what's gonna piss me off about other crime tubers that are not lay tubers. I am going to see Anna Elise, you know, 10 to life, who has for years, you know, parroted, "This dude is super de duper guilty," you know, without reading anything but, the state's stuff. Come out after she, has someone look, she's had success, and I wish her all the success. Look, she's worked hard, she's hustled, and I don't mean to sound spicy towards her, but she's gonna come out and she's be like, "I didn't even know any of this." When if you just read the probable cause affidavit, you would have realized that none of this seems to make sense. So, I'm gonna be really irritated when, Grizzly Crimes, who has been, parroting, the prosecution, "He confessed 5 times. He confessed, I swear," you know, comes out after this memoranda and, starts singing a different tune. I'm gonna be a little ticked off, just a little bit with certain people. Unified Command's failure to vigorously pursue the obvious links between the crime scene and Odinism is even more inexplicable when evidence known to law enforcement included information about another Odinite named Patrick Westfall, who was living in Delphi very close to the murder scene on February 13th, 2017. Evidence known to Unified Command included the fact that fellow Odinites Patrick Westfall and Brad Holder were close friends as late as January 21, 2017. However, that friendship ended abruptly in February 2017. The schism in their friendship resulted from a fight that occurred between Holder and Westfall in February 2017, where Holder, and Westfall were in the woods near a river conducting a ritual. One of them said or did something the other did not agree with, and they no longer talked to each other. The river was near Patrick's house. An intoxicated Brad Holder shared this disturbing information with his ex wife, Amber Holder. Amber Holder then relayed this disturbing information to law enforcement who are not part of Unified Command in 2019. These officers then relayed this disturbing information to Unified Command. Legit concealed this information from Judge Diner. In 2019, Unified Command learned that in a totally different conversation with his ex wife, Brad Holder pointed a finger away from himself and directly at Patrick Westfall as being the person actually responsible for the murders of Abby and Libby. According to police reports, Brad Holder told his ex wife, Amber Holder, that, quote, Westfall and his people killed Abigail Williams and Liberty German because one of their mothers was mixing uh, with other people outside the mother's race. I, I mean, it's very, this is all from the defense. It could be. The problem I have, and I think they're going to get into it in the memoranda, is this was a fairly chaotic murder scene, and this involved stabbing and slashing. Now, typically in a stabbing and slashing, now I'm not a murderologist, and I'm not, but typically in stabbing, I mean, we saw with oh gosh, we saw with the Joel Guy Jr. case and with the Chandler Halderson case and with several other, stabbing and other things that, you know, you tend to injure your hands when you stab someone. I guess I have a hard time believing that Richard Allen could do could subdue two women, two young women, set up this crime scene and not leave any DNA, not leave any traces of himself other than, um, a bullet that cannot be excluded from his gun. Now, it is entirely possible that he did it and that the state can prove that, but I do have reason to doubt with the evidence that the state has provided thus far. I'm not, I am willing to be I'm willing to be persuaded, but the state has not given me. I know this is from the defense. I completely understand who this is from, but the state in the probable cause affidavit was terrible. The probable cause affidavit, in comparison to any other probable cause affidavit I've seen, in any other case that I've looked up, was awful. It was terrible. It was incoherent. It didn't have any of the substance that these generally have. Letitia Stalk's, in comparison, was 36 pages long. Richard Allen's was about 7 pages long. So, I understand that there could be a bunch of evidence that I haven't seen. What I'm saying is right now, thus far, what I have seen between the document dump of the entire caseload, that's been published until May, and then now. No, it's I understand. I'm not saying it's the truth. I am simply saying that from what I've seen thus far, the state hasn't given me, any evidence that they have evidence. That's the problem, is that I'm willing to be persuaded. As I've stated many times before, I hope that this is the guy, that they have evidence, but, thus far, they have not come forward with and that's fine. I mean, they have the trial, and I hope that they have the right guy. I hope that they haven't spent all this time, but as a native of this state who has followed this case, there have been missteps, and a lot of them in this investigation. They had the, sketch and then the resketch, and then the sort of ridiculous, addition of down the hill where they just added a hill. I mean, and then not letting the FBI behavioral unit into the investigation. So there's just been a lot of things. So, I mean, I am willing to be persuaded, and I understand that this is coming from the defense uh, point of view, but it, I am just saying, I am willing to be persuaded either way with the facts. But I understand this is coming from the defense. I am open to having an open mind. And, everyone has the right to have their own opinion, just like, noses, buttholes, and everything else. Everything smells. We all have them. And, it is fine to have a different opinion and possibly, have a different point of view. That's, how we sharpen our opinions and sharpen our ideas. So I am just going to continue reading because we've still got like a bajillion and 12 pages to go. Well, that's fine. I mean, I'm sure they probably look, what I am saying though is that if they have here's the problem, uh, Leanne, and here's the only thing that I do have issue with. There is going to be a Frank's hearing if this particular officer, if this legit, uh, did doctor depositions given by witnesses to get a search warrant, he could seriously have endangered, this entire case. If they have all the evidence that he's guilty and this search warrant was gotten kind of under nefarious reasons, they could definitely have, fruit of the poison tree, and that could seriously scupper this entire case. So that is one thing that I really want to get Nicholas in on because I do know that further on in the memoranda, they are going to go line for line in depositions and really back up where they are accusing, because a very it is very grave, accusation to say that a police officer lied officially to a judge. So I know that the defense attorneys are not coming in, lightly to say this. So they will be going line by line and, showing where the witnesses in a sworn affidavit says, we did not say this to the police officer. This is nowhere in our witness statement. And then what the officer said their witness statement was. If if he changed those statements and Richard Allen is guilty and the prosecutors have all of that evidence and they still, you know, and he lied, they can't use any of that because one dude screwed the pooch. And that's gonna piss me off too. Because as I've said it from the beginning, if Richard Allen is a guy, if they have all the evidence, then lock him up, throw away the key. Just prove it to me. Don't expect me to blindly believe. That's all I say. All right. Okay. In 2019, Unified Command learned in a totally different conversation with his ex-wife. Oh, okay, so this is a part that, if you follow this case long enough, this this was kind of alluded to, but it was always sidestepped around. There were some people. Okay, Carroll County is very rural, it's very small, um, but one of the mothers of the girls was not dating another white person, and apparently this irritated the snot out of some people. Now, this is unfortunately, uh, a remnant it is unfortunately something that has popped up in this case, but it's kind of not, it's been bandied about, but there have been allusions that Abby and Libby were, uh, targeted because one of their mothers was, um, in an interracial relationship. Now, this was always kind of a rumor, and it seemed a bit salacious, so a lot of people just kind of sidestepped it. Furthermore, Unified Command was aware Brad Holder had told Amber that, quote, "I can only protect you so much if you keep asking questions." Brad Holder further told his ex-wife, Amber, that Patrick Westfall had many people backing him, Westfall up that. Now, I will say, Leanne, I would like you to, if possible, extend. No, I know that. No, they released 286 pages. I've gone through all of them, and I have a timeline that I'm working on, so I know what they've released. Um, and I can get I have intimate knowledge of what they've released because 'cause I've been through all of it. Holy cow. Yes, I have. It's insanity. What I can say is that this is the introduction, and they have footnotes. So no, I know, they have documents. I like I said, it's 230, I believe 36 or 86 pages. Believe me, I've printed them all out. I know. And I had to put them in order. So it's been a project. Oh, no, I know. I'm just, what I am saying is I would like you to also keep an open mind. I know it's hard to keep an open mind on both sides, but just try to keep an open mind, all of us. And sometimes we will find something on the other side of a thought to keep it up. But I am going to continue to talk. Otherwise, we will be here forever. Blah, blah, blah. And I keep losing my spot. Okay, that Westfall had many people backing him Westfall up, and that Westfall also had, quote, "powerful friends." Leggett knew of this information for more than 3 years before Leggett sought a search warrant for Richard Allen's house, yet Leggett never shared that information with Judge Denner. Additionally, Westfall provided a very weak alibi as to his whereabouts on February 13th, excuse me, 2017. Westfall told law enforcement that he, Westfall, was at home on the afternoon of Monday, February 13th, 2017. The defense is unaware of any search warrant that Leggett sought to enter Westfall's house or whether Unified Command, I swear to God, I want to call it United Concordia now. Unified Command instructed law enforcement to knock on a single neighbor's door to verify Westfall's alibi. Unified Command's failure to continually pursue obvious links between the crime scene and Odinism is even more disturbing when evidence known to law enforcement included information about another Odinite named Johnny Messer, from Rushville. Johnny was a recruiter for the Odinites and was also the connective tissue between the Odinites from Delphi area, Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall, and the suspects from the Rushville area, Elvis Fields and Rod Abrams. Delphi is located 126 miles from Rushville. Law enforcement knew that Johnny Messer was friends with Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall. Law enforcement also knows that Messer was acquaintances with Elvis Fields and Rod Abrams. United Command theoretically could claim and actually appear to be claiming that this connection is simply a bizarre coincidence. However, Unified Command not only knew that Elvis Fields, Rod Abrams, and Brad Holder, Patrick Westfall shared a common acquaintance, Rob or Johnny Messer, but also that Elvis Fields and Brad Holder each followed each other on Facebook and even mimicked each other's Facebook pages, with Elvis Fields actually recreating photos that Holder's posted on Holder's Facebook page. Yeah, I I don't care about their Facebook pages, to be honest, but okay. Shockingly, in at his August 10th, 2023 deposition, Unified Command member Jerry Holman claimed he did not even know who Johnny Messer was or what the evidence showed of Messer's possible role in the murder of Abby and Libby. It is additionally infuriating that Johnny Messer was cleared as a suspect in the murders when considering these facts. So, I believe there was a citation somewhere. Well, fellow kid, we are learning that one of the suspects apparently confessed to his sister. The sister took a polygraph test, even though it's not admissible in court. The suspect, when being interviewed by state police, didn't say anything. No, I totally agree. Look, I'm just saying this is new stuff. I'm looking into it. Uh, Now, one of the possible suspects, and we're still in the introduction, so we're not getting into the totality of it, but yeah, we are up to our eyeballs in possible suspects. One claimed that he might have spit on the girls. One took pictures on his Facebook page that were uh, that looked eerily like the possible crime scene. So, interestingly enough, it's all apparently weird. Johnny's ex-girlfriend, Taylor Hornaday, told police that Johnny Messner and Patrick Westfall were like brothers. She also told police that she allowed Johnny to borrow her car on or around Valentine's Day 2017, and Johnny drove her car up there to hang out with his Vinlander friends. Vinlander is a word interchangeable with those who practice Odinism. As State Trooper Roland Purdy stated in his deposition, all members of Vinlanders are also Odinist. Purdy deposition page 140, lines 1 through 25. Basically, the Vinlanders are white supreme pizza group who consist of Odinists, Brad Holder, Patrick Westphal, Johnny Messer are all affiliated with the Vinlander Group. Johnny Messer's ex-girlfriend, Taylor Hornaday, also confirmed all the Vinlanders were also Odinist, and Johnny Messer, Brad Holder, and Patrick Westphal were all members of Vinlander. Okay, so obviously, now we do know that Vinlander and Odinist are maybe interchangeable in this document from now on, so that might be something we need to look out for. When he returned her vehicle, it had dry blood all on one side of it. Johnny Messer refused to discuss the details of how the blood got there. Johnny Messer's ex-girlfriend further stated it took several car washes to finally remove all the blood. Meanwhile, Messer has claimed he never, not once in his life, has been to Delphi, the home of his brother Patrick Westfall, near the home of his other Odinite brother, Brad Holder. Messer's ex-girlfriend also told law enforcement that Brad Holder and Johnny Messer were two of the most violent people she knew and were fully capable of having been involved in murder. Johnny Messer's ex-girlfriend further stated that the motive for their involvement in the murder of Abby and Libby might be the concept of blood in and blood out, which means social acceptance into their secret circles. All this information was relayed to Leggett and the Unified Command team, yet Unified Command um, provided no guidance as to what to do to capitalize on this information in order to work towards solving the murders. Additionally, Unified Command learned that Johnny Messer's ex girlfriend had been listening to and recording Johnny Messer's phone calls. Police secured the phone and listened to 3 phone calls involving Johnny Messer. In 2 of those phone calls, Messer was, quote, offering money to the other people to find someone so they can be injured or killed. The 3 calls involved Messer bragging about holding a subject hostage and shooting them at his house. Good night, nurse. What is these people are, I mean, if true, not maybe the best people, maybe not the ones you bring home to mom. Essentially, Unified Command said nothing to see here regarding Johnny Messer and issued no search warrant for his home. None have been disclosed to the defense, nor did they attempt to utilize an age old investigative tool referred to as interrogation. Ooh, shade. Ooh, shade. Ouch. Ouch. That's what we call sarcasm, children. To pursue the truth about the involvement of Johnny Messer, Brad Holder, and Patrick Westfall in these crimes. Many more shocking facts concerning this so called investigation will be revealed in the body of the memorandum. Odinites in Westfield Correctional Facility guarding Richard Allen. The evidence shows that during his pretrial incarceration at Westfield Correctional Facility, Richard Allen has been monitored, intimidated, and mentally abused by correctional officers who are also members of the Odinite Club cult, sorry. 2 of those correctional officers are named Sergeant Robertson and Sergeant Jones. The Westfield correction officers boldly wore patches on their Department of Corrections uniform that proclaimed "In Odin We Trust," along with another patch displaying symbols of Odinism, interlocking triangles. Both Odinite correctional officers, Sergeant Robinson and Sergeant Jones, also displayed images of runes or other Odinite symbols on their Facebook pages. As recently as June 25, 2023, for example, Odinite Sergeant Robertson openly displayed a photograph of his Odinite altar on his Facebook page. A similar altar can be found on the Facebook page of Brad Holder. Beginning at least on April 3rd, 2023, Sergeant Jones and Sergeant Robinson wore their Odin patches when the defense team visited Richard Allen. However, Sergeant Robinson's and Sergeant Jones's brazen display of their Odinite patches came to an end on August 17th, 2023. What changed? Why did they suddenly no longer display their Odinite patches beginning on August 17th, 2023? Visit between Richard Allen and his defense team? Here's your here's your possible answer. Hello. It says tinfoil, but I'm going to be putting tinfoil here so I can wear it just like uh, Blossom. Well, so I have an interesting story that I will be sharing with you tomorrow about a former corrections officer who might have possible Odinite ties that, well, is now not being targeted for the death penalty by the FBI. but it's still in a whole heap a lot of trouble in Terre Haute. So, this thing might go really weird really quick. So there is yeah, all the things. It wasn't until August 10th, 2023, deposition of Trooper Jerry Holman that Richard Allen's defense team finally revealed to the prosecutor and to the Unified Command that for many months Richard Allen's defense team, had been fully aware of the strong evidence linking Odinism to the murders. It was also in August 10th, 2023 deposition that the Unified Command learned that Richard Allen's defense team was not only aware of this information, but also intended to expose the linkage of Abby and Libby's murders to Odinism and would be revealing the names of Odinism or Odinists at trial. At the deposition, Holman and the prosecutor also learned that the defense team obviously intended on exposing the Unified Command's utter failure in pursuing the Odinist suspects, in spite of powerful evidence of Odinites involved in the murder. However, and it's important to note, at his August 10th, 2023 deposition, Richards' defense team did not underline in bold. Hi, Peace Peony. Welcome. Sorry. Please, I encourage you to go back and listen from the beginning. We are still in the introductory piece, so I would liken this to like an opening statement where we kind of give framework. But I believe that the real, meat and potatoes, where in theory, if everything that they've laid out here is true, they're going to give us actual factual, you know, things that we can pull out and cite, uh, in the body of this memoranda. So we are still do, 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 you know, in the intro. And I will probably go for another 30 minutes. But I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to start finding news for the Newsy News morning show and, attempt to be like at least active in all the other fun stuff. So we'll probably go for another 30 minutes and then I will say goodbye to you, lovely people. We will be doing an afternoon stream with Nicholas Starro from Nicholas Starro Crime Trial Watch. Look, he has a very long name, but if you put in Nicholas Starro, and I think if one of my mods could put in his YouTube channel, that would be awesome because that way people could find him and give him a sub, and then they will know who I'm talking about. Then, yes, but he will be joining us. He is a lawyer from Sweden, and Sweden has had a big upsurge in, okay, not white supreme pizza, connected Odinism, but actually real, genuine Odinism linked to obvious Nordic, roots. So maybe he can give us a little bit of more lawyer information and Odinism information that isn't, from Wikipedia, which is where I would get it from. And I am always welcome to wisdom that I don't have and that doesn't come from Wikipedia. The defense team did not, bold underline, let Holman or anyone know that quote, the defense team was fully aware of the Odinite corrections officer at Westfield wearing in Odin We Trust patches. Well, it's not like they were being subtle. Richard Allen's defense team's next visit with Richard Allen at Westfield following the August 10th, 2023 deposition occurred 1 week later on August 17th, 2023. Curiously, or perhaps not so curiously, in those 7 days since the defense team revealed their knowledge that evidence linked Odinists to the murder, for the first time, Sergeant Robinson was no longer wearing his Odin patch. Uh, Sergeant Jones wasn't present for this visit, apparently. It was almost as if someone had alerted Odinite Robinson that the gig was up because the lawyers knew about the links to Odinism. So lose the patch and pray the defense attorneys had never noticed the patch on prior visits. Oh gosh, could you imagine? Look, y'all, my face is too all caps, and the smugly face I would have every time I looked at that patch, you have no idea. I can't do subtle. I would just have a smugly face, just smug as all get out every time I saw. And d when are we, like, putting flair on our correctional? I mean, are we doing the Office Space flair thing on our correctional uniforms? Is this flingers now? I mean, what are we doing here? I am all the confusion. I didn't realize we were putting flair on. I didn't realize in Odin We Trust was, look, maybe it's part of a religion thing. They can't get mad at you for the religion. Look, y'all, I don't even pretend to understand the world anymore. It has gone crazy. Fortunately for Westfield and Unified Command, Rick's defense team absolutely, or unfortunately for Westfield and Unified Command, Rick's defense team absolutely noticed Odinite patches worn by Sergeant Robertson and Sergeant Jones beginning April 3rd, 2023. Furthermore, Rick's defense team absolutely noticed the conspicuous absence of Sergeant Robinson's Odin patches following Trooper Holdman's realization that Rick's defense team was fully aware of the connection between the murders and Odinism, as well as the failure of Unified Command to follow through on the evidence that linked the murders to Odinism. The court will also learn in the body of this memorandum that Sergeant Jones and Sergeant Robertson were seemingly always by Richard Allen's side during most, if not every visit. Normally, corrections officers, usually Sergeant Robinson and or Sergeant Jones, were within earshot of every conversation between Richard and his attorneys and between Richard and his wife, close enough that Richard would have to be worried about any conversation with his attorneys and his wife being overheard by Sergeant Robertson and Sergeant Jones or any other corrections officers. Beginning on April 3rd, 2023, and for several visits thereafter, the Westfield correctional officers even videotaped attorney visits between Richard and his defense team. This is a giant no-no. This, in fact, necessitated an immediate restraining order, or I think it was a protective order. I have it written down on my notes. Yoink. See here. Yeah, this is a giant, this would be a giant hell no. Sorry, I'm looking for it, but okay, the protective order, yeah, basically, you are not allowed at any time as the state or proxy for the state or any sort of way to videotape confidential lawyer, client interactions. This is a big no-no. The correctional facility should know this. This is not something that was a boo-boo like, "Oh, I didn't know what it was supposed to happen." No, this is absolutely, completely, and not supposed to happen. Most of the time, um, if not every time, it was Sergeant Joan or Sergeant Robertson bringing a handheld camcorder to the visit. Corrections officers even required that Richard Allen be positioned facing the window where corrections officers were videotaping the attorney's visits. with a handheld camcorder. This positioning of Richard Allen's body would allow corrections officers to video Richard Allen's mouth as he talked to his attorneys. Richard would therefore not be able to privately discuss anything with his attorneys, such as, quote, "The guards are telling me that my wife and family will be killed unless I call my wife and tell her I killed those girls." 15. To be clear, up to this point, Richard Allen has never spoken these words to his attorney. The point is that the Westfield guards had made privacy needed for Richard to have this type of private conversation with his attorneys very difficult, and perhaps not worth the risk if you are Richard Allen. Now, there's also the fact that Richard Allen is being held in a prison in solitary confinement prior to conviction, when generally you are held in a jail prior to conviction. And there is a new facility much closer to his house and much closer to his attorneys that the state and Carroll County has refused to let him go to. So he has had to stay at a maximum security, basically solitary confinement area. So now there have been motions after motions to try to get him moved by his defense, and they have all been countered. So, some of the reasoning brought forward by the state as far as, let's see, the safekeeping order has been that, for his safety, because this is a high profile case and prison populations are generally not the kindest to child unalivers. For his safety, he needs to be kept in solitary. But that kind of doesn't hold water when the newer jail closer to his house has sort of a kind of, oh gosh, what are they called? An isolated area or kind of a protective unit that the state still refuses to send him to. So it's basically for his own safety. According to the state says that, they've done all the checklists and for his safety, they believe that they're providing the best care possible. So there have been several motions by the defense to move the him, but it has not been met with kindness by the state or and the judge has not seen fit to agree that he needs to be moved either. So it is a drain on his attorneys, it is a drain on himself and his family, but, the state has deemed that for his safety, he needs to be kept in Westville Correctional Facility in the sort of, protected unit, because of this high profile case. At one such meeting with his attorney, Richard Allen mumbled in a somewhat incoherent fashion that the Odinites were threatening him. It would be important to know that Richard Allen's defense team had never mentioned the word Odinites or Odinism or informed Richard Allen that evidence suggests that Odinists murdered Abby and Libby until August 25th, 2023, when his defense team, in the presence of his wife, who was visiting with Rick in prison, first discovered exculpatory Odin related evidence, or first discovered the exculpatory Odin evidence related in evidence to Rick. Rick's defense team felt that having him remain unaware would hopefully keep Rick a bit safer. Due to Rick's weakened mental state and concern he might be unwitting, unwittingly discuss his attorney's strategy to Sergeant Joan and Sergeant Robertson, Rick's attorneys opted not to discuss Odinism with their client out of fear that Sergeant Robertson and Sergeant Jones would be on the alert that Richard's defense team were aware of the Odinite involvement. Richard's defense team needed additional time to investigate and review evidence before feeling confident and comfortable in revealing their knowledge to the court of strong evidence that Odinites murdered the girls and that Unified Command had chosen to do nothing about it, but in fact had hidden these facts from Judge Diner. Therefore, Richard's defense team opted to keep Richard in the dark about the Odinite connection to the murders supported by the evidence. And then let's see what the footnote for 16. This decision has been painfully and emotionally difficult for Rick's defense team, as defense counsel recognized that while the defense took the necessary time to review the discovery to establish the Odinist links both to the murder and to the Westfield Correctional Facility, defense counsel was also aware that Rick would remain in his hellhole at Westfield, subject to cruelty of Sergeant Jones and Sergeant Robinson and perhaps other Odinite correctional officers. This was especially painful at the June 15th, 2023 hearing to transport Rick to Cass County, as defense counsel knew at the time of the links between the murders and Odinism in Westfield. Unfortunately, defense counsel needed additional time to fully understand and verify the facts before leveling such accusations. This is the reason the defense tactically decided to keep its knowledge to itself rather than revealing that knowledge in open court at the hearing. Unified Command and the prosecution hiding of exculpatory evidence is even more angering because difficult strategic decisions could have been avoided had McClelland offered the exculpatory documents sooner. Perhaps then Rick would have filed for a speedy trial or been removed from Westfield, as the defense would have been able to more fully inform the court about the facts in the case. And welcome, Melissa Jane. And uh, sorry, it's hard to keep up with chat when I'm when I'm reading. Again, more detailed information concerning Odinite corrections officers, as well as documentation supporting that information, will be provided in the body of this memorandum. Legit concealed certain witnesses' testimony and falsified other witness testimony in order to prevent Legit's bogus timeline from being exposed to Judge Diner. So, what I think I'm going to do is stop here because this is going to go into um, again, the sort of it's the next section, but it's going to start explaining their next sort of statement where they're going to so say you're not biting on the Odinist part of this, which granted, so he has been in prison since 2022 in October, I believe. Yes, that makes sense to me. Let me make sure because my brain is absolute. Yes. So, yes, October 2022. Now, the problem with everything, and this is the part that say you think the entire, Odinist thing is just a bridge too far for you. You're like, okay, this is an interesting canard. It's a yarn. I like that we're doing all the man bear pigness, but I just don't get it. This is the part that Nicholas and I need to discuss, and I'm going to be waiting for him uh, tomorrow afternoon, and I will try to get you guys a time period as soon as possible. So check, and I will be putting on Twitter and checking and probably making a short tomorrow to let you guys know as soon as possible what time I will be putting this out. But this is the part that should really bother you if the Odinist thing. Oh crap! I didn't mean that actually. I didn't mean that as an insensitive pun. But this is the part that should really bother you as far as um, if the Odinite thing is this. If they can prove that this officer concealed, tampered with, massaged, and finessed witness testimony in such a way to persuade a judge to give him a search warrant when otherwise, had he not done any of these underhanded things, he would not have gotten a search warrant. That renders that search warrant null and void, which means any evidence that the state thinks that they got from his house, from any of those electronics, from that, weapon that they got that says that the bullet, is technically, not excluded from that particular, weapon. None of that can be used. Not one bit of it. If that is proven to be fruit of a poisonous tree, and if you believe that this man is absolutely guilty, if he is the monster that killed these girls, because you had an officer who took it upon himself to, make sure that this guy was super duper going to get found guilty, and they can prove it with witness affidavits, sworn affidavits that makes it clear that he changed witness statements. Yes, he was arrested, in October 2022. I am sorry. But if they can prove that he did this, then the fact that there is, according to what the defense has in discovery right now, no DNA evidence, no electronic, um, evidence. Again, this is what the defense has in discovery right now, so the state is, in theory, supposed to have given the defense everything that they have as far as their case, but, there there's no DNA evidence, there's no electronics evidence that links him to this case. The only thing that links him to the crime scene is the bullet that is similar to, that cannot be excluded from the weapon that is in his house. But as we have learned going through these cases, that ballistics information is not the fingerprint that I used to believe it was. So that is where you should be getting, that should burn your biscuits. If, again, you believe that this man is completely all the guilties, if this particular officer can be proven to have massaged the facts and screwed the pooch here, I mean, this is going to be devastating. And at the end of the day, all of us want justice for these little girls. These girls, from what we are learning, and they have been pretty good about keeping this crime scene, and when you saw, I mean, I remember the first press conference, and you can tell that the crime scene was horrific. You can tell that the crime scene was awful by how shook up these officers were. I mean, you could tell. And possibly the biggest thing that I am really glad is that they the sister didn't go over to see, because the sister was searching right alongside the creek, when they found the bodies, and someone held the sister back, and thank God for that. Just because of, I mean, just from the little bit that we've learned here, I can't even imagine. But if you believe that he's the monster that did that, and then this is, the thing that's going to scarper this case, I would be furious. So that's my 2 cents, and as I said, I am just reading the words on the page. It's an interesting thing. I never thought I would, be talking about Odinism, but I am, and we will pick this up in the afternoon, and I will be glad to have Nicholas because I think a Frank's hearing will be interesting because I definitely feel like, again, once we get past this sort of opening, I think it'll be interesting, to really get into what they have in the body of their memoranda, because just this opening has been very interesting. And, it could be that the state has a lot, but just some of the things that the state didn't turn over, like the, certified letter from, Officer Click, that bothers me. That bothers me that the defense has had to go out of their way to find, evidence that the state was supposed to have turned over. Now, it could be that there's just a bunch of discovery in this case. I mean, this is just the outline of the pages that were all covered. I mean, this is the outline of the, 80 documents, not the 80 documents, but the 80 plus documents, just what they are. So I've got about, 9 pages just going through what all the documents are. So I can kind of easily know what page number is what when I'm looking through and trying to work on the timeline. So, maybe it isn't malice, but it's still a little when you start seeing patterns again and again of the state being less than forthcoming with all the evidence, red flags appear. And I want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, but red flags are starting to appear. And they've been here for a while, especially with the probable cause affidavit, with um, the car in question going from a purple PT Cruiser to a possible mini SUV, smart car, to a Ford, a black Ford, Focus. It just something about this has never smelled right to me. But I also am a bit of a Dale Gribble. So take everything and I'm somewhat of a silly person. So I'm a redhead on the internet. Take me with a grain and or pound of salt. But I am Mo in the deep end. Like and subscribe if you like me. Share this with your friends if you think that they might enjoy this content because I don't see a lot of people covering the Delphi this and I think it's going to blow up, I really do. I mean, not but I think this is probably going to be interesting, and I do know that the defense is pushing for cameras to be in the courtroom for the next hearing, so I'm just saying there's gonna be some fireworks. So I will see you in the morning. Don't forget to come over at 9 a.m. Eastern for Newsy News in the morning with me and Fry. Well, Fry is worn out. He had to, eat shoelaces and do daring do's with the cats and other things today, so he's exhausted. It's past his bedtime, but he will be up and raring to go, and we will have more newsy news you never knew you needed in the morning, and then Gareth Pursehouse first thing, and then in the afternoon, we will go into what is a Frank's hearing, what happened, and you know, what are we doing with this case? And getting Nicholas's professional lawyerly lawyer opinions. I will see you all in the morning. Have a lovely rest of your evening. If you are staying up later, I will be going to bed. But have a fun evening and thank you for all the lovely conversation in the chat and all of the different opinions. I love them because I love having different ideas. And I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.